Hi there, this is Roger Pascal. I'm with Real Impact Training and Subject2Institute.com. And we are a real estate investing company. We work with multiple locations. We have 11 locations scattered out throughout, most in Texas. We have one in Oklahoma City. We work with helping people learn more about real estate. We do local meetings at each of our locations that are scrolling on the bottom of our screen right now. Some locations will do more than one meeting a month. You can find those meetings on our website, which is realimpactcourses.com. That's a brand new website that we just brought up, and we hope to have everything on there. We're still working to beef it up. It is don't get disappointed when you go look at it, because we just set it up the last couple of days. So, but we'll bring that up on here a little bit later. But with Real Impact, we are here to help you build your business. We are here to help you with a business plan, with understanding how this works. Anybody can just do a training on how to find a house, but not necessarily, or a property, but not necessarily will teach you how to handle that, how to work with people, how to build your business plan, how to build a banking package that you can go to a lender, and the lender looks at it and says, wow, I really want to work with you on this. So we have all that into place. But today I'm excited that we have as our guest speaker, Brighton Godwin. And Brighton Godwin is from the central Oklahoma area. I've known Brighton for a couple of years, maybe 3 years now. We went to Cancun together a couple of years ago. And I've watched him do some presentations, and I've been very impressed with Brighton's his knowledge and his gift of giving that knowledge to other people, and gift of working with other people on various deals to help them out. So Brighton, welcome on board today.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Brighton, tell us who you are.
So I'm Brighton Godwin, and I've been a full-time real estate investor for 3 years. I've also been a independent commercial loan officer for 5 years at Stout Lending, where we help other investors get financing on fix and flip loans, refinance loans. You can do everything from single family, multifamily, all the way up to ground up construction.
Very good. So
go ahead.
Okay, let's talk. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I do a little bit of everything when it comes to the real estate investing. I've done single family, multifamily. I've done partnership deals on apartments with other individuals, as well as single family homes. And yeah, that's about sums up what I do.
Very good. So you've only been doing this. You've been doing lending for 5 years. So tell us how you got into lending and why that was attractive to you.
That's a great question. So when I got into lending, I was actually pursuing my first real estate investment company with one of my best friends. And we sat down for coffee with who is now my broker at the mortgage brokerage. And I was looking to get a loan to buy a duplex with my best friend, and we were going to house hack it together, where we'd live in one side, rent the other side out, and we were going to build a real estate portfolio together. Well, during that coffee meeting, that broker informed me that I could actually get a license to do residential lending. And I didn't realize you could do anything in finance without having a college degree. I didn't have a college degree. I actually was starting my first business right out of high school. And so although I did have scholarships to go to OU and UCO, some different local colleges here in Oklahoma, I ended up not going down that route and was starting my own business. So within 2 months, I actually got my residential mortgage license and started working as a loan officer at the brokerage. And the reason I did that was, well, I didn't have money to start investing in real estate. I actually wanted to learn the art of financing, learn how to acquire money and borrow money so that I could invest in real estate down the road. So working as a day job as a loan officer, was able to pay the bills, save up some money. I had already owned my primary residence and actually sold that and was able to take that chunk of money from selling my home, uh, moved in with another real estate investor as a roommate, and started investing full time, as well as continuing to be a loan officer.
Very good. Very good. So what kind of lending do y'all do? What do you specialize in your lending business?
So, we do quite a few different products, but as far as specialties go, we work with a lot of different private money and hard money lenders to help fund the acquisition and remodel of single family homes. And also, we have products to refinance those onto longer term financing. Other than single family homes, we've also funded a lot of apartment deals, similar, where we can fund the purchase and remodel. Also, we can do ground up construction. But the primary products that we're seeing with a lot of our clients is doing the fix and flip and refinance on their single family portfolios.
Very good. What is your cap on lending? Do y'all have a cap?
As far as the leverage goes,
Yeah.
So typically our lenders aren't going to go over 70 to 75% loan to value. On the fix and flip side, we do have lenders that will lend up to 90% of cost, up to 100% of the rehab on projects. They're not going to go over anywhere from 70 to 75% loan to value. Now, on the refinance side, it's similar. Our lenders are going to go up to around 70 to 75% loan to value. And they're also going to evaluate the debt service coverage ratio. So we have DSCR lenders on our platform, which is going to be another primary product we would offer, which is on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So that's something that a lot of these other banks aren't able to offer on investment real estate.
Right. So if someone is going to come to you and they're doing an apartment complex, what is the top dollar amount as far as not percentage, but y'all will look at it if it's a $2 million loan or can't go over 3. What is your numbers on that?
So we can pretty much do, we don't have a cap on the value because we are a broker. We have, about 50 different lenders to shop from. And so that's what we specialize in, is saving these investors time by finding which lenders will lend to their product. So if a deal's brought to our table that we don't currently have a lender on, we typically are able to go out and find a product for that project, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've done bid up to $180 million project. So as far as the cap on the lending criteria goes, there's really not a cap or minimum or max. Sometimes there's a minimum, but there's definitely not a maximum.
Wow. Okay. Good deal. How long does it normally take to get a loan together? Say it's going to be a residential property worth a couple $100,000. What is that process on there, and how long does that take?
So typically what we're going to be looking at is collecting a lot of the borrower information, as far as we'll need a rehab budget, a purchase contract, and a lot of these lenders that we're doing the fix and flip loans for, they don't actually require tax returns. Some of them will want to do your tax return, make sure that they actually do pay their taxes, but they're not income qualifying based on the tax return. They're not looking at debt to service, or they're not looking at debt to income ratio, right? They're looking at the deal itself and if it makes sense. Now, lenders, they're charging more fees than the typical bank goes, but they can also close in anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, up to typically standard closing time is 3 or 4 weeks. But we funded deals in as little as a week or less with some of our private money lenders, individuals that can just wire their money to a title company and close within a few days.
Wow. Okay. Do y'all require appraisals, or how do y'all work with that?
Yeah, so they're going to require appraisals on the property to make sure that the value is what they say it is, right? Some of the private money lenders that we work with are going to do their own in-house valuation, and they're going to value is what they believe it is before they're going to lend on it.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Then you mentioned that you have the DSCR loans, which is a debt servicing loan that is for investors that are. So those are those typically going to be a 30-year? Are they going to be a balloon? How do you work those?
Yeah, so a couple of different options there. We have a product that is, excuse me, it's going to be a 5, 7, or 10-year fixed rate on a 30-year loan. So it would be considered an ARM loan. And on during that fixed rate period, able to offer interest only payments. And so it actually can increase the cash flow during that fixed period. And how I like to look at those is a way to cash flow on a property. And what I'm looking at is what are interest rates going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So if you plan to sell or refinance again to recapture your equity in that asset in the next 5 to 10 years, then sometimes it might make sense to go with one of the interest only rental loan products on an ARM so that you can have that increased cash flow while you're building your portfolio.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, what's the cash flow? I hear people all the time, oh, I got a great deal on this. Okay, well, what's the cash flow going to be? And they come out, well, what do you mean? Well, that's the cash flow is king for me. I've met people out there, they're not necessarily concerned about cash flow, but for me, that's what the whole game is about.
Oh yeah.
Is the cash flow on that. So, what kind of documentation do you normally ask for a DSCR loan?
Yeah, for DSCR, they're going to want typically 2 years tax returns just to verify that you do in fact pay taxes. They don't want any federal income tax liens popping up on the property. They're going to want obviously ID. They're going to want a track record of previous properties. So a lot of these DSCR lenders, they're looking at experience. Same with the hard money lenders as well. They want to see, have you purchased and remodeled 5 properties, 3 to 5 properties in the last 3 years. Now they'll still lend if you don't have that experience, but it's definitely going to improve the terms and make it less risky for the lender if you have a track record. So other than having that track record, they're going to also be evaluating bank statements, verify you have reserves. A lot of times they want to see about 3 to 6 months of reserves available. And, there's probably a couple documents that I'm not thinking about, but that's going to be the majority of what they're qualifying you based on.
Gotcha. All right. So in my business, in my world, I work with a lot of people that do subject twos, which is acquiring a property. This is not, I know you know what subject to is, but let anybody on this call, it's acquiring a property without getting a new mortgage. You're essentially taking over the payments on the existing mortgage and the deed goes into your name. Mm-hmm. So if somebody has a subject to and say they've had it for a few years and they want to do a DSCR, do they still have to show that they've had multiple properties? Say if they just have one property, is that something that's worth looking at? If they just have one property, say they've had it for 3 years, they want to refinance it because the seller, just doesn't want that loan in their name anymore, or the bank is creating an issue, I guess, best way to say that. So, is that something that they can go out and get a DSCR loan in most cases?
So typically, yes, and it's going to depend on the title. So I've seen people do these subject to deals before where they actually don't take title until they're ready to refinance, and they just hold on to that deed without filing it. And in those circumstances, a lot of these lenders aren't able to do that. However, if they have taken title, like you're suggesting, then as long as they've had title for 6 to 12 months in that property, then we're typically able to refinance them out of it.
Gotcha. So with that mention, and that's something that I train in my training is you want to put that title or you want to put that deed in your name. You want to have ownership there. And I got a call a few months ago from a gentleman that bought a property in 2017, but the attorney he used was very concerned about the due on sale clause and did not file the deed at the courthouse. The property, he put about 100,000 into the property he was living in the property. And then like 6 years later, the original owner saw that the property was still in his name and turned around and sold the property and evicted him out of what he thought was his property, but it wasn't. So you're absolutely right on that. That, it should make anybody nervous. It definitely makes lenders nervous, but it should make anybody nervous on that behalf.
Yeah.
So Brighton, I know that you also do a lot of fix and flips, or do you have any rental properties that you hold? Is that what part of what you do, or you just do fix and flips?
Yeah, I've done a lot of both. So I started in January of 2021 with building my real estate portfolio. And within the first year of 2021, I had acquired 19 doors in my rental portfolio. And I had flipped probably 10 properties in that time frame. And then in 2022, I actually doubled down and I scaled from 19 doors to 68 in another 6 to 8 months. And so along those lines, I also flipped quite a few properties along the way. So I've probably done around 25 to 30 flips total. Now, over the last probably 12 to 15 months, I've definitely slowed down in my growth. Been liquidating and restructuring my portfolio to look at getting more into the commercial space. So like I mentioned earlier, I sold my 24-unit apartment that I had been remodeling, as well as both of my 6-unit apartments. And something I'm looking at right now is getting into some commercial strip centers, warehouses, places that we can get, business tenants as opposed to residential tenants. And so also I've been looking at doing some larger multifamily deals where I would syndicate or put together a group of people that want to invest with me, where we can buy a 150 to 250 unit complex together, where we each manage a piece of that puzzle as opposed to all of the responsibilities coming on to me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So saw an interesting video you posted, I think it was yesterday, on one of your rental properties that it wasn't a huge mess. What I could see, it was dirty and trash and other things, but it was an interesting video how you went through there and how you're evaluating what needs to be done. It looked like it was a great house. So were those your tenants, or were those somebody in your group?
Yeah, so that was one of my properties. That was actually, I think, the second single family rental I added to my portfolio, probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I had hired a property manager at the time because this property was in what I would consider a secondary market. It was about an hour outside of Oklahoma City limits. And so in order to avoid having to, drive out there all the time and manage that property, I went ahead and hired a property manager in that area. And so they actually found that tenant and did the screening, and that tenant paid for 2 years, re-signed the lease after the first year. And then I couldn't get a hold of them when their lease expired for about 30 days. So I drove out there, and come to find out, they actually abandoned the property. Their lease was up at the time, so they didn't break the lease necessarily, but they definitely left the house in complete disarray. Not a ton of, physical damage. The house was mainly just trashed with, all of their belongings that they decided they wanted to leave behind. They just left them, and a few broken windows, a lot of holes and screws in the walls. But for the most part, it was mainly just, some texture and paint needed and a really deep clean.
Yeah, I saw the screws in the wall, and I all I could think of is, of course, I'm quite a bit older than you, but back in the late 70s and early 80s, they had a deal that you could buy a board, a piece of lumber, and it would have nails in it. And you would take string and you would string it from one nail to the other to make some type of art. And I'm thinking, is that something that they were trying to do something on the wall with, or because they looked awful close together just to be pictures or something like that, but
Yeah.
and quite a bit out. So it was an interesting deal, and I appreciate you posting that kind of stuff on Facebook, because it really shows us all kind of what to look for. And yeah, it's always unfortunate when we have a tenant leave, and especially if they leave with property in disarray. You know, and but that's part of the business. That is what happens. It's really, really disappointing at the time. And you know, especially when it's an hour away from where you're at. So that's even tougher when
Right.
When you have to drive an hour to get somewhere, and you got to make time and say, all right, they're not calling me back. I've been trying for 30 days, and I guess I'm just going to have to go out there and knock on the door.
Yep.
So, good deal. So you also have a couple other businesses. We talked about Stout Funding, which is a incredible business, and then about your real estate investing business, where you're doing fix and flips and buying homes. But you've just started up a new company this last summer, I think, and it's an installation business, attic installation business.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that?
Well, that's a great question. So a lot of the businesses I've started, I end up doing something. I'm like, hey, that wasn't too bad. How can I make money doing this, right? And so, before I got into mortgage lending and real estate, I worked in attics for a living, working for AT&T. I was a cable technician, so I'd run the internet cables from the telephone pole to the house and crawl through your attic and drop a wall and hook up your router and make sure everything worked in the house. And so I have been deemed the attic ninja. And so me and my brother, this last year of I guess the winter of 2022, our house was not liking to stay warm, as well as in the summer it was not liking to stay cool. So we
Right.
got and we decided that we're going to add some insulation in our attic at our personal residence, which I'm also house hacking, by the way. I've got roommates there, paying the mortgage, right? And so we get up there, we work on the attic insulation, knocked it out in a couple of days, and then we had been entertaining some other business ideas as well, with between interest rates going up and different things going on in the economy. We were looking for some alternate sources of active income, because as we all like, is the passive income that real estate brings us, but we still got to live off of something, right, while we're building that portfolio. So we talked about it, and we decided to partner up, and he'll work the loader and I'll work the blower. We'll get up in somebody's rental property or Airbnb and blow insulation. And so, I figured up the numbers of material cost and labor cost, and I really just decided how much is it worth to me to climb up there and blow insulation. And
Right.
so figured up the numbers on that, and started marketing to all our local real estate investor groups on Facebook and everything. And so that's been another source or stream of income for us. I think it's going to end up being more of a seasonal job, because I've noticed people get a little bit more urgent with it whenever we hit this extreme cold. Like I don't know if you guys have had it down there lately, but we've been in the teens or lower in the last couple of weeks here in Oklahoma City. So we've been picking back up here, and then in August of last year is when we kicked off the business, before the heat of the summer had officially gone away. And we had a lot of people reaching out to us about the heat. So I'm thinking it's going to be a winter and summer thing for us, but ultimately we could scale it. But for right now, it's just something to, I guess, offset the income from, mortgages have slowed down since rates went up. We were refinancing people's entire portfolios, and I had people coming to me when rates were in the 4s and 5s and 6s even, on the investment interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And up into the eights there for a while, it was crickets. So I was like, all right, I got to figure something out here. So this
Right.
was an alternate stream of income for us.
All right, good deal. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, how valuable it is to have, even in rent houses. If you can you can sell that to the renter, sell that to the tenant, and say, you know what, we've just dropped in 12 or 18 inches, whatever it is, of insulation. That'll help on your utility bills, because most of my tenants and most of the tenants I've worked with, they don't have a lot of extra cash sitting around, and when they have that unusual electric bill or that unusual gas bill, because of the extremes that we have, and yeah, we were on the bottom end down here of your cold front that went through, and it did lower down in the teens. I've got lots of family in Oklahoma, and I'm watching them post. It was like 1 degree, posting in their car and showing that it's 1 degree outside or whatever. So y'all get a little bit more extreme than we do on the winters, but we did. It was 3 or 4 days below freezing. But you're right. It's a great selling point to where you can go in and drop some insulation in the attic, and then when you're working with your tenant, and you can tell them that this home is a little bit more energy efficient than maybe the next one they're looking at, and you wind up getting a better tenant.
I agree. And another thing we found with the attic insulation is that a lot of our local Airbnb hosts have been able to save and profit more on their Airbnbs whenever we insulate the attic, because it drastically reduces their energy costs.
Absolutely. And it's such a cheap thing to do, and inexpensive thing to do, should I say, for that to happen. And yeah, I have on every one of my rent houses and my fix and flips, that's always in my budget to go up and look at it first. And usually it's about 2 inches thick, and it's settled down because I buy things in the 70s and 80s. And and it's like, wow, this is going to be really, really cold. There's some great, there's some great tools that you can use to look at, temperature. You can put something on your iPad, and it will, or your iPhone, either one, or your smartphone, and it'll show you the temperature variances in the walls and the ceilings and stuff. And you can see, a lot of times what I've run into is houses that have had a garage conversion that nobody ever put insulation over the garage.
Yes, I've ran into that multiple times now. Quite a few of the jobs we've picked up, it's a flip, right? So these guys are planning to sell it, and either they're going to have me insulate it before they get it on the market or before the inspector comes. But a lot of these times they're getting a TRR back from the inspector after the inspections, right? And the inspector says add insulation in the attic. And I've gotten up there, I have pictures of attics that are completely bare. So, some of these houses, they've knocked down to the studs and they never insulated it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There was a builder here in Fort Worth back in the 80s. I think it was maybe the 70s, but I think it was the 80s. And they were doing the roll insulation at the time because blown insulation wasn't that common. And they'd get it inspected, new houses, get them inspected, and they pull that insulation out of the attic and put it in the next house to get inspected.
Wow.
So it was a big thing. Didn't take long for somebody to figure that out and talk to their neighbor. Well, I don't have insulation either. And then they would look at the, at the green tag or whatever. Somebody thought far enough ahead to go into the city inspections and say, well, this had insulation at one time. And so I, like I said, I tell my students and I tell people that I work with all the time, don't get chintzy on the insulation, because it will always pay back.
Yep.
And even if it's a rent house, like I said, it really helps improve bringing in people, the right renters in there, and they'll stay longer. I've got houses that I've had renters in there for better part of 15 years. And I know that there's multiple people out there that I've met that have had a couple of people I've met that had tenants in there for 30 and 40 years,
Wow.
and paying off that house for them, right? So, so with that, you're in Oklahoma City now. You're lending. You can lend nationwide, right?
Correct. Yeah. We've actually helped some of the members of the mastermind. And when I came down there and spoke a couple of years ago, there was quite a few people that we helped provide some information and value to. And so we've definitely worked with some of you guys down there in Texas.
Very good. Very good. But you can go if somebody's listening to this and they're in Cincinnati, you have products for them.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
There's only about 4 states that we can't lend in, which would be New York, California, North and South Dakota, and I think it might be Nevada as well. So I believe that's the 5 total that we cannot lend in just due to the state regulations.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. Who wants to do anything in California and New York, right?
They're all coming and flooding into our states, right?
That's right. That's right. They're yeah, by the truckloads, literally. So wow. Okay. So and then on your fix and flip and your rental business, you offer a little bit of training on that, I think, and then you offer maybe some partnerships on that, or how do you work that on the local aspect in the Central Oklahoma area?
Yeah. So last year, I actually started another company that was mainly just so that I could start billing for what I would call consulting with investors. And so I set up Independence Investor House, where I actually turned one of our flip properties into a rental property and made it the office for this company. And so what I've started to do is fill those rooms up with local investors and individuals that want to work with me on a closer level. And so it's almost a roommate capacity, if you will, right? So we become roommates. We're all running our own businesses, and we get to network and mastermind together in this investor house. As well as I've had other people outside. They're like, "Well, Brighton, I don't want to move in. I'm 45 years old and I'm married, or whatever." And so I created a couple different products where they can, I'll basically just bill by to provide you information, and that's kind of how I've helped investors locally. I've also partnered with some new investors previously on deals where, let's say, they didn't have the experience necessary to qualify for the 100% financing options with some of our hard money lenders. And so what I've been able to do with those individuals is partner with them on their first couple of deals as the credit and experience partner to allow them to. I've seen it go from they're supposed to bring 30, 40, 50, $60,000 to closing to just closing costs on their first deal. And then I help them navigate their first couple of deals until they have the experience to qualify for that same financing option. I've also brought together people on multifamily deals. That's what I'm starting to specialize in, as well as raising capital. And so we've got a lot of private money lenders that on our platform, as well as more people that I'm seeking out that have money they want to invest, whether it's in their IRAs or 401ks, and they're looking for a secured to real estate and have a better return than the stock market's providing right now. And we'll partner with those individuals to where, they can, provide capital. We'll provide the operations, the negotiations on larger multifamily deals, and basically syndicate a deal with them. So
very good. Very good. So I've been going back and forth, but there's your email address on the bottom. If you have any questions, anybody on this call has any questions, you can reach out to Brighton, and you can he'll get you answers. He'll make that happen. So other than that, I really do appreciate you being on this call today. And we look forward to working with you in the future and finding more deals to happen. And I'm just very impressed with your whole business ethics and your whole business, putting that together and making sure that you've got some great products out there to share your knowledge. Under 30, this is it. This is what, this is great. I have met so many people throughout my career, and I was young when I started my career, and I had people, my first real sales call that I made was in California. Fly out there and go to the airport Hertz rental deal. They had my little name tag up there. I get it. I show them my driver's license. I said, "We can't rent you this car." And I'm like, "Why not?" And they said, "You're not 24 years old yet." And I was like 19. Yep. And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" So I called my client that I was going to, one of my clients, and said, "Hey, I'm going to take a taxi over to your place, and I'll just use, I'll figure this out. I'll figure something out." But I was driving all through Northern California on that trip, visiting clients. And I got there, and Frank, my client, threw me some keys to a Porsche 911, and I got to spend about 4 days driving that Porsche 911 all through all through Northern California. So that was pretty awesome. But I learned a lesson that if I went on a sales call, I had to carry an adult with me.
That's right. I've been there as well.
That's right. I just never knew that and then now you can actually, somebody at 16 probably can go rent a pickup truck at Home Depot if they wanted to. So, or U-Haul.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but good deal. I really do appreciate you being on here. Just really have been in awe on your business and your ethics, and you're on Facebook. You post a lot of great material on Facebook. So anybody on this call, look them up, and just feel free to reach out to them on lending. If you're in the Central Oklahoma area and you want to learn more about the attic insulation or what he does in his fix and flip business and that type of business, reach out to Brighton. But Brighton, really do appreciate you being on this call today.
Yeah, thank you, Roger, and I hope to come down there and speak in person again as well in the future.
Absolutely, we'll make that happen. Good deal. So we're going to go ahead and cut off the call right now. So thank you all for being on here. If you got any comments, put them on the chat area. We'll make sure that we get back to you. And once again, you can reach out to Brighton. His emails that are on the screen, and we will go ahead and call this a night. So thank you so much, Brighton, for being on here today. And we'll go from there.
Thank you, Roger.
All right. Good deal.